I've had a financial advisor for about 10 years who really helped me get my house in order. I maximize my 403b and Roth IRA contributions, and I've been saving about $2,000 a month to a taxable account at Schwab. My hospital also has a pension plan, believe it or not. My advisor designed my portfolio for both my Roth and taxable accounts at Schwab. Now that I've educated myself more about the wisdom of indexing and wisdom and simplicity of indexing, I'm looking at it with a more critical eye. In my Roth account, I have about 17 funds. In my taxable account, I have 15 funds. Some funds in both accounts are actively managed with an expense ratio of over 1%. Two questions. One, does this portfolio sound excessively complex to you? Two, if so, would it be unwise for me to consider eventually managing it on my own to at least avoid my advisor's fee? I've read lots about designing a simple, tax-efficient portfolio, but what's a person to do with a portfolio designed by someone else when I was a financial neophyte just out of residency? Wouldn't selling the actively managed funds have a huge tax wallop? In the spirit of buy and hold, am I better off just staying the course? I realize it may be difficult for you to answer these questions without seeing my portfolio, but I'd appreciate any advice you have. Thanks so much.
I get accused a lot of being anti-financial advisor. That's not actually the case. I like financial advisors. I have friends that are financial advisors. I think there's a lot of really good financial advisors out there who give good advice at a fair price. This person that you have engaged to function as your financial advisor is not a good financial advisor. They suck at what they do. I don't know if they are a mutual fund salesman, if that is how they're being paid, if you're paying on commissions, if these are loaded or commissioned mutual funds, that's the mistake you've made. You have basically hired a commissioned sales agent masquerading as an advisor. If that's not the case, and this is just a terribly untalented, unknowledgeable, ignorant advisor, I guess the end result is the same. This person needs to be fired. They're terrible. They really are. And if this is your portfolio, if you're this poor doc's advisor, you suck. Why did you do this? Why are you in this profession if this is the kind of work you're going to do? This is basically financial malpractice. To set up a portfolio with 15 funds in one, 17 funds in another, 1% plus ERs. I mean, come on. You're not doing this person a service. You're ripping them off. Most likely, this advisor is not doing it deliberately, that they're not, a bad person. It's that they're ignorant. They don't know how to construct a portfolio properly. They don't know about index funds. They don't know about the importance of keeping costs low. They don't know about the importance of having a reasonably simple portfolio. All right, so this is an advisor that needs to be fired. So step number one is to figure out what are you going to do going forward. And you have two good options. One is to get a real financial advisor that offers good advice at a fair price. You can find a list of these folks at whitecoatinvestor.com. Go into the recommended tab for financial advisors. We got a lot of great people. They do charge money. Financial advice isn't cheap. You got to expect to pay a four-figure amount a year. But they give good advice. Okay, they're not going to put you into this crappy portfolio. And if they do, I want to hear about it because I'm taking them off my list. Okay, but we ask them about this sort of stuff when we, vet them to put them on that list. Do you use a bunch of actively managed funds? Do you use a bunch of high expense ratio funds? We ask them these questions. Are you trying to time the market? And we actually make that application with those questions available to you. You can read their answers before you hire them. So that's one option. The second option is to do what lots of white coat investors do, and that is manage your own money. There's some real advantages to managing your own money. Number one, you save the fees. So even if you're not exactly quite as good as a professional, talented financial advisor, as long as you're no worse than the amount it costs to hire that person, then you're still coming out ahead. So that's one option. The other thing is, you're not going to rip yourself off, and you don't have to, schedule a bunch of time to meet with yourself. And so there's some advantages to, doing it yourself in that way. I've been a do-it-yourself investor for a couple of decades now, and I intend to do that continuing forward. I don't find it complicated. I find the price to hire somebody to do this to be dramatically more than the value I get from having them do it. So I think that's a perfectly reasonable option. Either way, you've got to choose what you're going to do going forward. And I wouldn't do anything until you've made that decision. So that's step one. If the plan is to hire a good advisor, you dump this in their lap and have them sort it out. Okay, that's their job. That's why you're hiring them. And that's perfectly acceptable to do. In fact, you can just hire somebody to help you sort it out and then going forward, manage it yourself. We have lots of people on that list that specialize in doing that sort of a thing where they just do it on an hourly base or on a flat fee base and will help you get your portfolio set up properly. Assuming, and you sound like you're probably going to be a do-it-yourself investor going forward, then you got to figure out how to do this on your own. So again, don't do anything until you have the plan in place. Get a written financial plan in place. If you need to hire an advisor to do that, hire an advisor to do that. If you need to take our Fire Your Financial Advisor online course to learn how to do that, do that. If you feel like you're now competent to do it, then do it. But get the plan in place first. Then it's just a question of going from here to there. With the tax protected accounts, it's very, very easy, right? There's no tax cost to selling any of that crap. You just sell it all. You put it in the portfolio that you want. In a taxable account, it's a little more complicated. And you may end up with some legacy investments. Legacy investments are investments you wouldn't buy now, but you don't want to sell because the tax cost to selling is too high. And you got some options of what to do with that. But step one, when you look at a taxable account that's in 15 or 17 different funds or whatever the crap that was, first thing you do is you figure out the cost basis for each of those tax lots. And you may find, especially with the performance of the market this year, that you've actually got a bunch of those lots with losses. So if you were underwater on any of that, great. Sell it and buy what you should actually be investing in the first place. You're actually in a tax loss harvest at the same time. This is a good thing. If the basis is about the same as what you bought it at, great. No tax cost. You can sell it and buy what you'd rather own. If you were able to pick up a bunch of tax losses in this process, you can now sell some of those things with gains and use the losses to offset the gains. And again, get invested into that sort of stuff that you actually want. Then if you've got a few things left that have a very low basis compared to their current value, well, you may want to build around those in your portfolio. Okay. You may want to say, well, these are mostly large cap blend funds. So I'll just own a little bit less of the total stock market fund in order to account for the fact that some of my portfolio is going to sit in these at least for a while. If you end up gifting something to, your children or something, you can gift those appreciated shares. If you give to charity, those are great things to give to charity. These appreciated shares that you don't actually even want. And that you can do that with no tax cost. Obviously, don't be reinvesting dividends into those funds, but they've just become legacy investments for you, and you just have to deal with them in that way. But most people that go into this process that have only been doing this for a couple of years, you're probably going to be able to change 95% of your portfolio to what you actually want to be invested in. No problem. You might have a little bit of legacy investments going forward, and that's not a big deal to deal with going forward. Every time you look at it, it'll remind you of the importance of being financially literate. If you want your questions answered by the White Coat Investor, record your question at whitecoatinvestor.com/YQA or click the link in the description.
The hosts of the White Coat Investor podcast are not licensed accountants, attorneys, or financial advisors. This podcast is free entertainment and information only. It should not be considered professional or personalized financial advice. You should consult the appropriate professional for specific advice relating to your situation.